On this episode of the Bronze Metalist podcast, we talk about Annihilation Principle by Laaz Rockit. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Bronze Metalist podcast. I'm Kale.
I'm OJ.
We're two professional broadcasters. We like metal and we like to talk about it. And today we're talking about a band that I'm kind of surprised I've never heard of before.
Sure.
This is probably the band out of the bands that you've brought that I have never heard of before, which actually there's not a ton of those.
Right.
There's not a ton that I had never heard of. This is probably the biggest one that I had absolutely no context for whatsoever.
Sure.
Never heard of them in any context at all, but they were a relatively big deal
In their day,
the
yeah.
80s.
Yeah, 80s and early 90s, yeah.
And amongst the thrash metal scene, and especially the Bay Area thrash metal scene. But I had never heard of them before. So
it's a bit dated. That could be why. I mean,
it hasn't aged particularly well.
No.
The production quality has. This
great.
Is a well-produced, well-recorded album. The instrumentation is good. Everything's good quality, but the subject matter has not aged particularly well.
Right. I mean, this made a lot of sense to me at the time. To 19-year-old me, this
spoke to you.
Yeah.
It's like, I really get this, man.
Yeah.
I really understand this. We'll talk. Also, before I looked up Annihilation Principle, I would not have guessed that's how the name of the band was spelled.
Sure.
It's Laaz Rockit.
Right. Rockit.
Which my question is, what the fuck is Laaz? Who's Laaz? What does that mean? What's it in reference to?
So they're just changing the spelling of the Laaz Rockit, which you know what that is. Light anti tank weapon.
If that's what it is, then I think that popped into my head earlier and it's like maybe. But they seem to have a weird predilection.
Sure, that'll work.
Is that
Predilection? Yeah, sure.
They seem to be oddly fixated.
Predication.
Sure. They seem to be oddly fixated on like military.
Specifically in the
Vietnam era.
Late 60s, early 70s. Yeah.
Yeah. They seem to be weirdly preoccupied with the Vietnam era for people that did not live through.
They did.
Well, they were alive.
They were children.
They were, young children at the time. Maybe they had some parents that went through that. I don't know. I hardly know anything about the band.
Actually, I'll be honest. I kind of hardly know anything about them either. It doesn't seem like, I didn't see a lot of interviews in the day or magazine articles or things like that. I just remember just seeing the single for Holiday in Cambodia.
Yeah.
In Musicland, and I bought it. It had 2 songs on it.
The Kasingle. And there's a cover of Holiday in Cambodia, which is, what band is that again?
That would be Dead Kennedys.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. That's like, it's a hardcore punk band. What?
Shit, sorry.
You fucked up the headphones.
I did. Well, it caught on my sleeve, and I was moving my shirt.
You're on a fucking roll with fucking up the headphones every episode.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And here's the funny thing. It only affects you and I. Nobody out there notices that our headphones are out of whack.
But we'll talk more about Laaz Rockit in a while. It's like, this is a good album. I enjoy it. This is good thrash metal. But we'll talk more on it. First, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic.
Doing good? What you been up to?
Not a whole lot. I tried to start a diet with a friend because she's getting hernia surgery. I hope she doesn't listen to this because I've been.
Did you give up on that?
Oh, fucking like the day of.
Man, I should have placed some fucking bets.
Well, I
should have put some money down on that shit.
You should. You're right. You should have. I mean, the problem was that I had a whole bunch of coffee and then I had no sugar because what they want to do is they want to shrink down her liver so they can go in and do hernia surgery on her. And because her liver is huge because of her lifestyle. And so I'm like, I'll do it with you. And it's just cottage cheese and protein and lots of water and vitamins and shit. And like
sugar-free Jell-O.
Yeah, sugar-free Jell-O. And by like the end of the day, I'm like, I am going to die. I will die right fucking now. If I close my eyes, it'll be for the last time.
This is the end.
I'm getting a goddamn Big Mac.
Let's get me out of this nightmare.
Yeah.
Oh, Saint McDonald.
Yeah. And she
Ronald,
messaged me.
Please.
Let me be the Hamburglar. She messaged me. She's actually gained 4 pounds.
How?
I don't know.
How does any of that? Not drinking alcohol, eating only this stuff,
cottage cheese,
not a lot of it,
right? Sugar-free pudding.
I mean, I can see gaining some weight if you eat an absurd amount of cottage cheese.
Sure,
but I don't feel like I know a single human being that would want to eat enough cottage cheese for them to gain weight. That, like, I feel like that requires such a massive amount of cottage cheese.
Right. Well,
is she a smoker?
No.
Is she okay? I was gonna, because if she can't smoke,
no.
If she's a smoker and she's not smoking, then maybe her appetite was tiny and then it grew real big because no nicotine. No, that wasn't it. Okay, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't understand how it's I don't get it.
And she has a gluten allergy, which means that she doesn't even drink beer. She never has.
I don't know.
Well, she has, but then found out that, oh no,
I have a gluten allergy.
I have a gluten allergy. I can't drink
beer. Is probably the vast majority of alcohols not particularly good because it's made from bread.
Oh, she can pound the vodka.
Yes, vodka. You can do the potato vodka.
Absolutely.
I guess it's normally just. Is there wheat vodka?
I don't think so.
Or a barley vodka, because it's normally just potatoes and corn usually.
Right. Yeah. My mom was so happy, by the way, because she's on an extremely restrictive diet, has been for like 30 years now. And the doctor says, well, here's a list of things you can have. You can have things made with this and this and this. And she said, and potatoes was on the list. I'm like, oh, you like potatoes? She's, oh, no, yeah, whatever. Vodka.
Vodka.
Yeah.
Like, vodka. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, that's been me. I don't think I've done anything different at all over the last nothing at all. Nothing really.
I bought some new pants.
Did you?
I bought some new pairs of jeans.
Nice.
So that's a thing that I did.
That's huge for you.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, do it. Okay, we haven't talked about Rings of Power in a while.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
Here's how we fill time.
Sure.
We talk about Rings of Power.
Yeah.
Have you watched the most recent episode?
I have.
What did you think about it?
It brought me back a little bit.
Okay, because you were starting to get bored.
Yeah, the previous episode sort of made me go.
If there was any episode to alleviate the boredom, it would be this most recent one,
right?
Because there's actually quite a lot of action.
There is.
In fact, it's almost all action,
and the plot is really moving forward.
Yes,
as well at the same time.
Okay, spoilers.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about a show.
Power.
From last week.
That was last Friday.
Sure.
But yeah, spoilers for Rings of Power up until this point, which if you're listening far in the future, maybe doesn't matter to you at all.
Right.
So yeah, I'm kind of interested in So the river gets released,
yes.
And you find out that the orcs were digging these trenches to reroute this water into the magma chamber of Oradruin, aka Mount Doom.
Right.
To have this massive amount of water flush into the magma chamber and then set the volcano off. The thing about, obviously, it's the evil volcano, so it doesn't necessarily need to track with real world volcanology, but also it would stop erupting eventually, which we know it doesn't. But again, it's the evil volcano, so it doesn't really matter. But it's also one of those things where I looked it up afterwards because I was like, was Mordor ever referenced as having been anything but majority in Ash Wasteland, or at the very least the southern Mordor beyond, because like there's these like two little mountains that close off the plains of Gorgoroth. Right. Where Gaul lives. But there's like these little mountains that close off Gorgoroth, where Barad-dûr is, where Mount Doom is. And beyond that, Mordor is not necessarily like a verdant, fertile place, but it is a place where crops can grow in, things can be grown to actually feed the armies that Sauron supports. Right. But like that part of Middle-earth where Mount Doom is, as far as I'm aware, was always an ash wasteland and never habitable to anybody other than orcs, which is the whole reason Sauron went, yes, I will go here. Because also the thing that they're inventing where Adar apparently thinks he killed Sauron.
Or maybe he's just lying about it.
Maybe he's lying. I think what they're doing, because like what they revealed is that he's one of the original orcs, Uruk, which is why he I actually like that touch in the sense that like he identifies himself as being an orc but he looks like an elf. Right. He looks like an elf that got fucked up and twisted. Right. Which is a way to sort of bridge the gap between, okay, you've got these orcs here that are with him that are clearly just like nasty monsters. And then the theory that Tolkien had that made it into published material that he was never really happy with is the idea that orcs are twisted and corrupted elves, or at least the original ones were. Right. That was something that he never really was very happy with as an explanation, but he never published a recanting of that, or never published any other explanation. He just had notes for it. Sure. And that stuff, has been published in Unfinished Tales and, appendices for the Silmarillion and so on and so forth. But I always kind of preferred the idea, which is what they're kind of doing. It seemed to have done in the show, which is like, okay, Morgoth grabbed some elves, twisted them, and made like a prototype. And then after that, the mass produced version is just something that can be summoned using evil magic, essentially.
Yeah, because there are no lady orcs.
Yeah, they don't seem to breed. Even though Gandalf also makes mention in The Lord of the Rings, in the book and in the film, crossing orcs with goblin men or something like there's references to like human orc crossbreeds.
Well, they do it in the lab.
I wonder if that was meant to be figurative, or if it was just an early enough version of that Tolkien hadn't decided, I don't like that actually. Right. But the idea that Saruman, as a sufficiently powerful practitioner of magic, or what passes for magic in Middle-earth, is referred to as magic, but really it's just power is what it is, because it's all technically everybody who uses magic in The Lord of the Rings is a cleric according to D&D rules. Sure. Because no wizards, all power in the world comes from the same source, which is Eru, and or from Melkor, who, aka Morgoth, who originally got his power by being created by Eru. Sure. Who is the one, the creator, the god, basically Christian god, but fantasy. That's Eru. But yeah, it's like, I like that touch. There continue to be timeline things that bother me, where it's like, it just feels like things are being far too condensed for my tastes, where I'm struggling to see how like Sauron, when he realizes who he is again, because I'm just going with that he's the stranger, almost certainly is. Okay. But when he comes to his senses, I'm wondering how they're going to work in his making of the rings, because he hasn't done that yet. And like, I'm wondering how that's going to go, because in the original version of it, he never went anywhere. Like Morgoth got defeated and he ran and, went into the east of Middle Earth, established his place in Mordor. And then when, elves and men kind of started to recover on Middle Earth, he took on a very beautiful form and introduced himself as Anatar, the Lord of Gifts, and was like, hey, you guys are working on these cool magical crafting projects. I want to help you with that. We can create these cool, very powerful magic rings that will, I'll give you the ability to preserve your kingdoms and influence the people that you rule. Isn't that neat? And then he went and did his thing with the One Ring.
Right.
But he made all of these, like he and Celebrimbor make all of these rings for the dwarves and the men and distribute them. And then Celebrimbor, using what he got taught, makes the 3 elven rings without Sauron. Sauron doesn't know that he's made these 3 rings for the elves and was probably planning on making some for his own. I think I'm remembering this correctly. But in any case, like this happens over a relatively long period of time. And then as soon as Sauron puts on the One Ring, the elves are like, oh, fuck, that's what this was. And then a massive war starts. And then at the very end of that war is when the Númenóreans show up. They capture Sauron and they bring him back with them. And that's what precipitates Númenor's weird anti-elf stance that they already have in the show for some reason. It's not even been hinted at as for why the entirety of Númenor, except for like Elendil and his family, seem to hate elves. There's no explanation for it so far, other than I guess the king and queen have had some scary visions of a big flood, and it's supposedly connected to Galadriel showing up.
Yeah.
But maybe. I don't think that was even called out as being the reason why the entire island hates elves. Like, there's I don't see any reason for why this anti-elf stance
I feel like they said something about them fighting on the side of Morgoth.
No, the Númenóreans didn't.
Well, they fought against him.
Have the island entirely because they stood with the elves against him. That's the whole reason they're there. That's right. Their first king was Elrond's brother. So it's like there's timeline stuff and things that have not been explained that I feel like should have been explained by this point. Give us some context for why everyone in Númenor is so hostile to Galadriel, other than Galadriel just being rude to them. But like, yeah, there's not been any context provided for that yet. And I don't want to sound like the sort of person that's incredibly impatient about television shows. Like I don't mind slow burn TV. I don't need everything explained immediately. But there are things that I feel like should have been figured out by this point. Someone in the script should have said, like, Galadriel should have asked, like, hey, why do y'all hate me so much? Yeah. Just ask the queen, like, why do you guys hate elves so much? The founder of your country, his brother's one of my best friends, and he's an elf. So what's the deal? There's no explanation. So that bothers me.
I think it'd be fun is if there's never an explanation and it's just the responses are all like, oh, fuck off, elf.
Yes, like, they're racist for no reason.
For no reason.
Yeah,
fucking elves.
I just don't
always
quite
asking shit.
I just don't quite understand that part.
Yeah.
But I like 3 out of the 4 plot lines they have going. Which I feel like is too many plot lines. But I like the Harfoot plot line. I like the Galadriel plot line, and I guess the Galadriel plot line and the Southlands plot line have merged now.
They have now, yeah. Galadriel walked into the volcanic eruption.
Yeah, she just stood there, which I guess she's a powerful elf, so she'll be fine, but she just stood there as a pyroclastic flow hit her in the face. Right. Which is bad for humans, but I guess not so bad for elves.
Terrible in the complexion.
Yeah. By
the way, I have a little bit of a running hope in the back of my head that it turns out Sauron is one of the Harfoots.
Sauron is the elder, that the record keeper.
Well, no, the main adventuring girl, her best friend. But,
Sauron, she's Sauron.
Yeah, she's Sauron secretly the whole time. They catch her in the woods making rings and shit.
She's just making them in the woods. Yeah. Doesn't even need the volcano.
Nope. She's just in the woods.
So the world.
It was a ruse the whole time.
That's some Ryan Johnson level subvert. That's some Ryan Johnson or Game of Thrones is Dan and David level.
Right.
Subverting your expectations, no matter the cost to the narrative quality of the project. But you didn't expect it.
Yeah.
So it was good, right?
No.
No,
it wasn't.
Just because I didn't expect it to happen doesn't mean it's good.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't expect it to happen because it makes no fucking sense. But yeah.
I didn't expect to have diarrhea earlier.
But it does make sense that I have that.
Yeah,
So
that
Taco Bell.
That fits the narrative.
Well, yeah, like I liked those 3 plot lines. I like everything except for the Elrond and the dwarves plot line. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't even that. I didn't even dislike that all that much until the last episode they were in.
Sure.
With the whole Mithril bullshit. About Mithril containing the light of one of the Silmarils because it was inside of a tree that was at the top of a mountain that got struck by lightning when an elf was fighting a Balrog. No. Just have it be there. Just have the Mithril be the Mithril. And why do all the elves need it or they're all going to die in a year? No. That's like, that whole plot line is the most obvious attempt to just fill time, bad for time. And some writer went, I have this idea. And they're like, well, fuck, we don't have enough. We gotta go with that one.
I guess we were gonna have something else, but we're out of time.
That's our D plot line, so I guess we'll go with that. Like, I don't. And it's a plot line that wouldn't need to exist if they hadn't done the whole Sauron's missing and we don't know who he is. Because if that wasn't the case, then the whole thing with Celebrimbor, they could have just started with that right off the bat of like, here's Celebrimbor and his friend Annatar. Who's this Annatar figure? And that, like, they're going to do that in season 2 now.
Annatar's the last airbender, though, right?
Yeah. Yes. Annatar, the last airbender. Yeah. Not Aang.
Not Aang. Annatar. His name.
I love that character Avatar with the blue arrow on his head. He's my favorite character in that show. What was the show called?
I thought they were all blue.
And they had the tails and
prehensile
tentacle hair.
Right, and they could bend fire.
It's the weirdest amalgamation of things.
Yeah.
I keep on forgetting that there's another one of those movies coming out.
Yeah.
There's Cameron's doing another one. Mm-hmm. I keep on forgetting that. He's doing 3 more.
Wow,
that are
3 more?
Yeah, he really put all his eggs in that basket. And to be fair, every screenshot I see, I'm like, that looks really impressive.
It's beautiful, but
I'll probably go watch it because it's going to be fun. It's a James Cameron movie.
It'll be fun no matter what.
It's going to be a good movie. It might not be a critical darling necessarily,
right?
But it's going to be a good, fun movie.
The original Avatar was, if you saw it in 3D, it was fantastic.
I enjoyed it in 2D.
Yeah, it's still enjoyable.
Nobody gives a shit about 3D anymore.
No.
They're not even going to fucking bother.
That movie in 3D, that was possibly the only 3D movie I went to where I didn't walk away either just feeling having had my time fucking wasted for 2 hours or with a screaming headache.
Because it was made for 3D. It was made, that's how it was meant to be seen, whereas 3D was just kind of a for every other movie in that era that it came out, that came out in 3D.
I want them to bring Smell-O-Vision back.
Smell-O-Vision.
Yeah, absolutely.
What the hell is the thing that they have in theaters now where it's the big, the seats look like what I'm sitting in now.
Yeah.
What the hell is that called? I can't remember.
Awesome is what I call it.
I've never paid for one of those seats.
Let's go to a fucking movie soon. Serious.
I don't even know what's in theaters that I would want to go see.
It's all
Is Top Gun Maverick still in theaters?
I don't.
That would probably be fun in those chairs, but I don't think it's still in theaters.
It is. Well, see, here's the deal. Movie theaters realize we're not selling like half the seats for every show. Why don't we take out most of the seats
and put these big things in there that move around?
The feet come up. You can kick back and you can put your feet up. And there's a big thing for your drink.
They call it like 4D or some shit, or I can't remember what's or like 2.5D. I don't. It's
just comfortable. It's all it is. You're actually.
But yeah, and then the chairs move around.
Well, you're not.
I might be thinking of a different thing than you're thinking.
They don't really like. Okay, I'm thinking of AMC here. The AMC here, they don't really move except for there's a battery operated and the feet come up.
No, I'm talking about a thing they have down in Bismarck at the Grand.
Oh, really?
I don't remember what they're called, but the seats are they look kind of like this.
Oh, they're motorized?
They're motorized and they move around with the action.
Kind of like one of those games like when you're on the roller coaster on the screen and it
kind of like that.
Jerks you around.
Not quite as extreme as like Star Tours at Disney World.
Sure, that's what. Yeah,
but it's similar sort of concept. Mm-hmm. I don't remember what those seats are called. I never bothered with them.
Oh yeah, didn't there then?
Oh yeah.
At SeaWorld they have actual the seats because it's an adventure. You're watching this movie and it's at sea. We'll actually missed you.
Yes, I remember that actually.
Yeah.
I think the last time we were at a SeaWorld would have been in Florida when I was 8. Mm-hmm. And I think we did
2 years ago?
Yeah, I'm 10. Hi, I'm 10.
I'm Cale Borner, 4th grader.
But I think we saw a thing that was like an Arctic sort of or like an Antarctic adventure sort of thing, and they had the seats like that, and then they had the cold mist and stuff.
Nice.
That was kind of interesting. I hardly remember. I was 8.
The one at the North Pole, I think you go to, and where you actually get mauled by a bear in your seat.
Yeah, that's you actually get eaten by a polar bear.
Right. It's the real experience.
That is like something that is terrifying about polar bears, which is that like a grizzly bear will almost certainly try to leave you alone.
Sure.
Because they're probably like, they know that it's a bad idea to mess around with humans, generally speaking. Mm-hmm. And unless they're starving, they're like, it'll be easier for me to just eat some berries.
Right.
Unless it's like late in the season and you're pulling a Timothy Treadwell sort of thing. But like polar bears, on the other hand,
every opportunity.
All they eat is meat.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing else that they're going to go eat. And they see you and go, oh, what are they going to do?
Yeah. Well, and
they're not going to put up enough of a fight to be a problem to me.
Who is it that said that if you see a polar bear in the wild, you've been dead for the last half hour. You just didn't know it yet.
Yeah, because it's been watching you.
It's been tracking you.
And is practically invisible.
Yeah. By the time you see it, it's been too late for quite a while now.
Like, they're so cool, but they are genuinely fucking terrifying.
Yeah, they are terrifying.
I absolutely don't want them to go extinct, but they're terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
One of nature's most frightening animals as a human being, because you see them and it's like, oh no, I am not on the top of the food chain.
Right.
Here.
Yeah. There are towns in Alaska where it's illegal to lock your car because polar bears come into town,
and someone might need to take cover in your car.
Yeah. If your car door is locked, they get killed.
It actually wouldn't be that insane of a trip to go up to Churchill. Although the roads don't go all the way up there. At some point, I think you need to get in a plane to go to Churchill. But
or in a whirlybird.
It's only one territory away. Churchill, Manitoba is only one territory away. It's just the entirety of Manitoba.
That's a long way.
You only have to cross one border to get to Churchill.
But you're traveling 1,500 miles.
Yes, all the way to the southeast or southwest coast of Hudson Bay. Mm-hmm. But it is weird to me that it's like as an American that's used to states not being that big, the sheer size of Canadian provinces is a bit mind-boggling.
And here's one thing though, because of the Mercator map, they
look bigger.
It's exaggerated.
They are still huge.
They are still very large. Yeah.
And it's just a bit mind-boggling, even though there's such a narrow band of where the vast majority of people actually live.
Yeah, a vast majority of Canadians live within 100 miles of the United States border.
Yeah, because the rest of it is northern Canada. It's inhabitable, just not easily for large quantities of people.
Right.
People have been living there for over 10,000 years, but in small groups. That are very good at what they do.
I think only recently there was a road out of Flin Flon.
Flin Flon?
Yeah.
What is that?
It's in upper Manitoba there on the northwestern Manitoba.
Okay.
And I remember my friend Byron telling me going there as a kid, the road went into town and then didn't keep going.
Yeah.
It was
just the roads in the town.
Yeah, but now there's a Canadian highway that goes west out of there. But
that was an interesting chat. Shall we talk about Annihilation Principle by Laaz Rockit?
Sure.
So what's your deal with this album, with this band? Are they like, I mean, we said earlier that you're like, I don't even know the story of this band.
Yeah.
But what's your story?
My story is, of course, it was right after the time when Tipper Gore and the PMRC was putting stickers on stuff to tell you, no, listen to this.
AKA to tell you, this is the good shit.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I mean, Musicland.
Quick aside, recently I watched I watched clips. I haven't watched the Frank Zappa one yet, but I did watch the clips of John Denver and
Dee Snider
speaking at that panel, and both of them are fantastic.
Oh, they're both amazing.
Anyway, continue.
That's why you always associate John Denver and Dee Snider.
Yeah, that's such a weird crossover of musicians of Zappa, Denver, and Snyder. Those three all going, no censorship, please.
So I'm in Musicland with my buddy Scott, I believe at the time, who just had his birthday. He just turned 49 here this week.
Happy birthday, Scott.
And so we are at Musicland, back when they used to have music stores in the mall.
Yeah.
We're in Musicland, and I saw there was a singles there. And like, Laaz Rockit, what the fuck is this? And I looked at it, and it looked like the cover to that was similar to the cover to this. In fact, all their covers are similar. The same, like, cartoonish soldier-looking dude.
Yeah, their weird obsession with military stuff.
Right. And it was, I believe it was Holiday in Cambodia on one side and Fire in the Hole on the other side.
Okay.
And I listened to it nonstop. I'm like, when does this album come out? And then it was actually their second album. Yes,
something like that. I'll check on that.
So eventually when this came out, I'm like, this is great. And then however old I was at the time, listened to this a whole lot on cassette.
Good old cassette. Were you were you at all familiar with like Dead Kennedys at the time?
Of course.
Okay, I was gonna say, did you know Holiday in Cambodia was a cover?
Oh, yeah.
Because I feel like that I can't name them off the top of my head, but I feel like there's probably been situations where I've heard a cover first and was not aware that this was not the band of origin.
Well, yeah, that's happened to me a few times as well.
Annihilation Principle is actually their fourth album.
Is it their fourth album?
Yeah, it's their fourth studio album.
Holy
We got
shit.
City's Gonna Burn in 84, No Stranger to Danger in 85, Know Your Enemy, which is the first album to have its own Wikipedia page.
Right, that's the one I was aware of.
And then Annihilation Principle.
Know Your Enemy is the other one.
89. The album cover of this is like a big nuclear monster.
So I was 15 when this came out? 89?
Yeah, this came out in 1989.
Oh, wow. All right. Okay.
So
I was 15.
It took you a while or you were younger than you thought.
I was younger than I remember being is what the case. Because I bought this new when it came out.
In Musicland. This is Bay Area thrash metal
It's
of
definitely
the late
metal.
80s. I feel like listening to this album, I was kind of listening to it going like, I'm starting to get enough of an ear for thrash metal to be able to place like when something comes out, because it's like, yeah, this is definitely like late 80s thrash metal, because it sounds more similar to like that proto death metal that like Possessed would have played.
Sure.
Right.
Which is about the Possessed. Their first album came out in 87, I want to say, wasn't it?
Something like that. It's,
80, that 86, 87?
That era of transition where there are bands that get founded as a thrash metal band and then start, and then, by the time the first album comes out, we're a death metal band.
Right.
Like I feel like there was a transition happening with a bunch of different bands at that time.
Right. And plus you can tell by the production value on this. I mean, like thrash metal in 1984
wouldn't have sounded like this.
Sounded like it was recorded on a wax cylinder. I mean, whereas this was obviously done in a professional studio.
Yeah, this sounds good. This is a good sounding album. So yeah, I was not able to find a ton of like reviews or anything for it, because it's old enough and the band is not quite large enough to have had either old reviews in magazines and newspapers republished on the internet, or to have retrospective new reviews done.
Right.
I feel like they're kind of at the cusp of that, because they were a fairly big deal at the time. This was not, a small unknown band. There was sort of a cadre of Bay Area thrash metal bands, not, considered necessarily part of the big four, really, but you've got the contemporaries in like Exodus and Testament, bands that I have heard of, but these guys somehow sort of fell below the mark.
Heathen, we should talk about Heathen one of these times.
But I think part of the reason why they fell below the mark is also that they didn't make anything between 1991 and
like 2000
ever again,
was it? Yeah. I know they had a reunion.
No, 2008 show. Rather.
Right.
They put out an album called Left 4 Dead, and Left 4 Dead, not Left 4 Dead like the video game.
Right.
Which, God, I haven't played that game in a long time. Anyway, did come out the same year as Left 4 Dead 2, which is irony. Not irony. That's not irony at all.
No.
It's a coincidence. Is what it is. But yeah, they didn't make anything between 91 and 2008. And like a lot of other thrash metal bands that have kind of stood the test of time and have remained not necessarily household names the way that Metallica and Slayer have, but have at the very least remained in general metal consciousness outside of just being a thrash metal band. Those are bands that have stuck around and kept making things.
Sure.
They're bands that continued to have a career past the 90s and managed to survive through the era of grunge and alternative metal.
And new metal.
Yeah, not a lot of bands that were born in the 80s did survive that era.
And some of them actually went into it. I mean, if you look at, say...
They leaned into the skid.
Like, like Monster Magnet. Is that the name of the band? No. Who am I thinking of?
I don't know.
I'm thinking of... oh my God, the guitarist from Violence.
I don't know.
Wow, why am I blanking this right now? You should know. They played here a few times.
Are you talking about Machine Head?
Machine Head, yes, that's what I was thinking of.
I was like,
yeah, not
like,
Monster Magnet.
He
Machine Head.
I was like, the guy from Violence is the guy in Machine Head. Is he talking about a band I don't know about? Or?
They actually did a new metal kind of album.
Yeah, or like technically Pantera.
Yeah,
starting out as a hair metal band and then transitioning to being the. I guess you'd call them alternative metal.
Groove metal.
Groove metal, I guess. That closely associated grouping of genres that emerge in the 90s.
I love seeing interviews by the old interviews with the Abbott brothers, and you could just see the fear in their eyes when anytime Phil's name comes up. Like Phil's coming. Oh fuck! What do we do? I don't know. Is he unhinged? Is he calm? What is he doing right now? Is he going to kill someone?
What Phil are we getting today?
Yeah, what Phil are we getting today?
But yeah, like only certain bands kind of survived that era. I guess. Sepultura kind of started out as something a bit more thrashy, didn't they?
Oh, yeah, very thrashy. Yeah.
And they transitioned into more of the 90s style.
Yeah, more experimental they got. I mean, especially, I would say especially after
Max left.
But it was happening while Max was there.
Yeah. So I feel like that's kind of why I don't really have much of any awareness about these guys, because before you said their name last week, I had never heard of them.
Well, there you go.
And now I have heard of them, and I've listened to some of their work, and I think it slaps. I think this album slaps.
It does slap. What's your favorite song?
My favorite song, let me look at the track listing here again, or it might be better for me to pull up what I listened to on. I think my favorite song is Shadow Company.
Shadow Company.
It's got that moody intro and outro. True. It's it's got the same kind of
the second to last song, right?
No, at least on the version that I listened to, it's the fourth song.
Okay. Oh, right.
And the version I listened to, the second to last song, is Mirror to Madness.
Mirror to Madness, and then it's The Omen.
Yes. Yeah. I was kind of I heard the opening of Shadow Company. I was like, ooh, this is different. It's kind of the guitar tone kind of reminded me a little bit of more downbeat Metallica song. Sort of that kind of vibe to it. It's like, oh, all right. This is a little different than what I've heard so far. Let's get to it. And yeah, I liked it. I thought it was a good song. What's your favorite song?
Fire in the Hole is my favorite song.
Yeah, Fire in the Hole is it's a good album opener. It's just good in general.
Yeah, in fact, one of the reasons I listened to this album so much is because I listened to the first track so many times that the rest of the album was kind of unknown to me. and for a few weeks, I'm like, well, I've heard that song a lot. What's this next song? Ooh.
And then you listen to
there's
just
a second song.
One.
Yeah.
There's more.
Yeah.
Dearie me, a treat. What's the song that has the uncomfortable sexual lyrics?
Chain of Fools?
Yeah, Chain of Fuels.
Chain of Fools?
Chain of Fools is like that's the first one I was like, oh, this hasn't aged well.
Yeah.
That's this. It's like it sounds. I said this to you like as we were walking in. It reminded me of like a Buck Cherry lyric.
Sure.
It's like if you've ever listened to Buck Cherry, they've got a lot of like really chauvinist kind of like overly sexual, demeaning lyrics that I just don't care.
Because hey, you're a crazy bitch.
But you fuck so good. I'm on top of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and like there's I've said numerous times tonight that they have a weird sort of preoccupation with military stuff, and there's a lot of this album that has to do with Vietnam for some reason. I don't know why,
right? But
it does. And I mean, they're far from the only metal band to have some sort of attachment to military stuff and to combat stuff. I mean, I really enjoy Bolt Thrower.
Sure.
But most of that is about fictional conflict. Right. I mean, their first album is based on fucking Warhammer 40K. So it's like, of course I'm going to like that.
And this was, written about a conflict that had been over for, 15 years.
Yeah.
And
by a bunch of guys that were in there at this point, mid to late 20s.
And they were like, yeah, we're all for it, like that sort of thing.
It comes off as gung-ho. It doesn't feel like it. If they were trying to make it sound tongue-in-cheek, I think they failed.
Right.
If they were trying to make it sound like ironically gung-ho.
I feel like they weren't, though.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I
feel like the record label, the cover,
yeah,
and the things of that nature.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know one way or the other, but I can definitely say that if they were trying to sound ironic, they failed.
Don't you think?
Don't you think? It's a little ironic.
A little too ironic.
A little too ironic. Yeah. Alanis Morissette, ladies and gentlemen, that's what he's trying to do.
She toured with Laaz Rockit for a while.
Did she?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, okay.
They took turns opening.
This happened before I was born, so I believe you. I don't think Alanis. I feel like I have enough awareness to know that Alanis Morissette wasn't touring in the early 90s.
No, her first album came out in 96 or 97.
So I don't think she was.
No.
I don't think that's. No. I know enough. I mean, Obviously, I know that
right.
you were joking, but
yeah.
Also, if I were a much dumber person, I would still know enough. If I were, okay, not dumber. If I were a lot more gullible, I would still be like, Alanis Morissette's not that old.
She's my age.
Yeah, so.
She's 48.
And you're a spring chicken.
Yeah. My tits are sweating right now.
Just sitting here talking.
Just sitting here talking to you.
Well, let's get this over with then. What metal do you bestow upon this album like Maz Kanata de Chewbacca?
I love it a lot, but it really only gets a silver.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I wouldn't say that I love it a lot necessarily, but
but nostalgically.
Yeah. I will say that I will give this one a silver. I did not do enough looking beforehand. So I thought October 17th was earlier than it is, because that's when that new Lorna Shore album comes out. But that will be between episodes.
Sure.
But not this next one. So I will have to find something to talk about in the interim. Instead of promoting it tonight, because maybe I'm not sure what I want to listen to.
Get a hold of their management and get a promotional copy.
Yeah,
so that we can talk about it and get it to all the myriad listeners on the other end of this podcast.
For sure.
So that they will run out and purchase.
What sort of like Hollywood adjustments can I make to our metrics and our metadata to
Hollywood bookkeeping?
Yeah, to sort of juke the stats here and make it look like we're much more popular than we are. Some creative accounting there.
There you go.
But yeah, I'll figure it out. I'll figure out what I want to listen to.
All right.
I'm not sure.
And then I have no problem with going with Lorna Doone the next week.
Lorna Doone.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see what I want to talk about.
Right.
I don't know what I want to talk about.
Ooh, taco. I want a taco.
Now you want a taco. I made some pizza before this. I only had 2 pieces.
Really?
I think I'm going to make some more pieces of pizza.
I had pierogies. They were good pierogies.
What? We're getting more and more unintelligible in this non-existent regional accent.
Exactly.
We've developed. No regional American accent is that.
I think that particular accent is just too many hits on the head.
Too many hits on the head somewhere in New England.
Somewhere in New England. Yeah.
Too many concussions somewhere in New England.
Unsuccessful headshot from a mob. They shot you in the head. They didn't kill you.
Right between the lobes.
Right.
Didn't cause enough damage, but definitely the event of just getting struck with a bullet took out quite a lot of brain cells.
It went right between your parietal lobe and your Lisa lobe, and it just managed to just do enough damage.
I didn't get that, but I'm sure it was very funny.
Again, because what happened before you were born.
Yeah, I'm sure someone older or more well-read than myself finds it very funny.
No, they don't. There's no one who thinks anything I said is funny right there.
It's not true. Statistically, there is some person in the world who would think it's funny. They just might not be listening.
Right.
They probably aren't. Statistically speaking, most people don't listen to this podcast.
Statistically, yeah. A vast majority are not as cool as the people who listen to this podcast.
Hey. So if you're cool and new, then maybe check out our social media pages, Facebook and Twitter, and follow us there. And we'll post episode links when episodes come out. And that might be the way you get your updates about it, right? Otherwise, just subscribe to our feed on whatever you're using to listen to us, whether that's the Apple Podcast app or Libsyn's the podcast source, or you're listening to us on your desktop through the YouTubes. I don't know. However it is you're getting, subscribe to us on there. Do it. Do it.
Now.
Do it, you coward. Anyway, thanks very much for listening to another episode of the Bronze Metalist Podcast. I'm Kay.
I'm OJ. Congratulations.